Personally, for me, one of my favorite setups. Really nice win rate, and yeah, it's pretty easy as well. So that's always a plus. Yeah, so that's what we'll be going through tonight. Obviously, getting very closer and closer to the Igor part of it with the Igor time and Igor sessions. Um, so yeah, this is what we got tonight. Then next week I'm going to be going through the merging of the profiles, and then we'll start Igor time and Igor sessions, and yeah, then we're done with the TPO series. So yeah, this is pretty cool. Hope you're all learning a lot through this series, and yeah, let's begin with ledgers and the DD setup. So vamos. Of course, with the disclaimer, of course, always first. So yeah, tonight that's what we'll be going through, ending with the questions. I estimate tonight's stream probably takes about 30 minutes. Nevertheless, I still think I'll do the questions in a separate stream tomorrow. I just kind of like the flow of that, and then I can do the Bitcoin update and the questions. Keeps this more towards half an hour, and then I can, do the stream tomorrow. I'll see how it rolls, but I think I'm going to do that again. As we've done like the last few weeks now, just keep the questions in their own video. Okay, so let's begin. Oh yeah, I'll just add a note about this. Going forward, I think what we'll do is we'll add, obviously we got the timestamps below all the videos, and we'll add the YouTube questions to the bottom of the timestamp. That way the YouTube questions that we do on the next day are linked to this. Okay, so you're aware. So starting off with ledgers, then moving on to the double distribution setups. The ledgers are actually pretty straightforward. Of course, I will preface this. If you have not watched last week's stream, 100% you need to, because otherwise you're not going to understand any of tonight's stream. It's absolutely crucial you watch last week's about the single prints and the poor highs and poor lows. So a ledge is essentially the same as a poor high and poor low, but it is formed inside in like the middle of the TPO chart. So whereas your poor high was where you had the 2 or more blocks of TPO right up at the high, and your poor low is 2 or more blocks at the low with no buying and selling tails, the ledgers are essentially, that same structure of 2 or more profiles together in the middle of a chart. Okay, I've got some visual examples for you in a minute for people that like visual learning. So again, it's 2 or more TPO blocks at the same price, and that is creating what's known as in TPO a ledge. Okay, and really simply put, ledgers are used as support resistance levels. So you generally would view them, again, this is for day traders. I'm not, this is a day trading strategy. So swing traders aren't really going to care. I wouldn't have thought you're not really going to be so bothered about ledgers on a TPO profile. So this is the ledgers part of this is very much focused at day traders. So day traders, you would use these ledgers as actually pretty strong SR levels. Okay, because it's obviously shows you like 30, 1 hour worth of price action unable to break through the levels. I find it a very good visual way of just recognizing this is a support resistance line using the TPO profile. So this is obviously what it would, well, I guess it's not obvious, but this is what it looks like. Okay, so a poor high, obviously this is what we would consider a poor high if it was at the top of the profile, but obviously in the middle of the profile, and this is just known as the ledge. And here we can see, for an example, a ledge resistance. So this was obviously the resistance of the ledge. And then it's broken and flipped into support. So again, you view these. I would generally, well, actually I explain it as we go on, so I won't bother explaining this slide. But yeah, so ledgers, if a ledge is formed within a day with more, and this is my personal idea, so this isn't going to be for everybody, but for me, if there's more than 4 TPO blocks at the high or low and price rejects, e.g. you've formed 4 like blocks and unable to break through a level and price then comes back down. So e.g. the price rejects after the a few attempts at getting through, unable to get through. When price revisits that ledge, one would generally expect price to break through on the next attempt. Obviously context dependent as always. You can't just view this as a 100% win rate trade. But for example, on the retest, we would be monitoring so things, standard operations that you're looking out for: the CVD, open interest, delta, volume. Again, this doesn't mean you get 100% win rate just because you monitor these things, but you can obviously go from, a 30, 40, 50% win rate to getting up to, towards the 80, 90% win rate. So there's obviously no 100% guarantees on just because you look at these, added confluences. It's pretty obvious to just got to emphasize that point a little bit there, So basically what I mean by this though, is that if you form the 4 blocks at the TPO, unable to break through, and e.g. you've formed a very strong ledge, e.g. a very strong resistance level, if that then rejects, the next attempt up at the level, so if you get quite a substantial pullback, the next attempt at the level, which in this example would be the 5th attempt, I would generally expect it to be broken on the next attempt. Like it's like TPO theory, but it's not anything, it's nothing strange to us. Normally we would expect, the more times you tap a level, the weaker it gets. And if you have a ledge on the TPO profile, which does form, end in a big rejection, I would generally expect the next time it's tested to break through, or of course look for the swing failure pattern. That's the 2 trade example. It's the only 2 trades that you're given from a strong ledge, in my opinion. Okay, so here you can see an example of where you had a strong ledge. We could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 to 5 blocks, ends in a rejection, but here we can see it also did end in, ends in a swing failure pattern, for example. So because what is above the ledges? Well, it's obviously an area of liquidity. So if they are broken, they can be support resistance levels, e.g. this ledge, if it was broken, if you backtest it, this is obviously an SR level. You can view this as an area or a trade potential for a swing failure pattern. So e.g. if you get a wick above a ledge and you're closing back down below, that could be one of your intraday swing failure pattern trades. Okay. My first thoughts are always going to be a swing failure pattern. So the only trade I would not ever trade the breakout of a ledge. Like some people might do this, but I personally wouldn't trade the breakout of a ledge. The first thing always I'm looking for if we form a ledge in the intraday is swing failure pattern, because I don't know, I just like to trade swing failure patterns. I find it pretty easy. So yeah, the first thing I'd always look at is the swing failure pattern. Of course, always got to be looking at the the volume, open interest, and delta within this. But yeah, that's always my first thought, swing failure. If there is no swing failure pattern and you break through the level, then you are offered the opportunity of a long on a decline and back test of that ledge. Okay, so that would be I would say this would be, if this had broken and not swing failure patterns, a back test of a 4 to 5 TPO ledge on the intraday is considered a big support level. So I wouldn't buy the breakout of this, but if we declined for a retest, again, things that you're looking out for in terms of the volume on this would be, if you had broken out, you'd really want to see the open interest increasing, the volume increasing, nice positive delta. And then on the retest, you would want to see on the retest declines in open interest, declines in volume, generally a lower amount of delta, just fairly neutral amount of delta coming back into the retest. And that would offer you a high probable trade for a retest long, to expect continuation to the upside. Could you see a decline in price on the declines on open interest, declines on volume, and get a retest and it just goes straight through and continues down? Of course you could. There's no 100% in trading, but you have to play that setup 10 times. You should be winning this 8 times out of 10. Of course, don't expect 10 out of 10, but overall, ledgers very, 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 in my opinion, nice levels for the intraday traders among us, scalp traders, day traders alike. Nice intraday support resistance levels. I would always look for the swing failure pattern first. If there's no swing failure pattern, buying on the retest of the volume, the delta, the open interest lines up. Yes, it's a nice setup. Okay. So moving on to the double distribution step. So the ledgers, that's pretty simple. It's fairly simple theory. Okay. The double distribution step, and this is one of my absolute favorites. I absolutely love the double distribution setups. I feel they're just very easy, but they actually have they're just a lovely set. They have a nice win rate, easy entries, easy invalidations, recognizing when to trade, when to not trade. Yeah, this is going to be like a big edge, I feel, for a lot of people. So double distribution setups occur when price gets acceptance into a larger row of single prints between 2 distribution profiles. I think this was on part, get myself part 2, maybe. Don't quote me on that. Part 1 or 2. Well, we went through the double. I think it was part 2 or 3. Anyway, on one of the parts, I've gone through obviously the day types within the TPO profiles.